showmanship and not really about the rate case per se. Also, from what I've seen over years of inquiring what the
recording in progress.
Yes.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. It is Wednesday, February 4th. It's 10:05 a.m. Sorry for a little bit of a delayed start, but we're just shaking the cobwebs off of our new committee here, first meeting of the year. So appreciate everybody being here. We do have 3 members present in the chambers, myself, John Hunt, and Mike Sigler. And Iris Packman is able to participate remotely due to our remote attendance policy. She is covered by that. So Iris, thanks for joining. Hope everybody's feeling well at home. All right, changes to the agenda. I've been asked by Planning and Sustainability to move up resolution to select a grant application for Tompkins County submittal to the New York State County Infrastructure Grant Program to the top of the order. So if without objection, I'll put that under appointments. And Nick, I'm wondering if, is Megan here today or joining us, do you know? Could you double check? That would be great. Any other changes to the agenda by members of the committee? Okay, seeing none. Any public comment today, Taylor? Okay. Minutes approval. We have the January 7th minutes. We are all able to vote on them. You don't have to recuse if you weren't there for that. But if I could have a mover and a seconder. Moved by Mike Sigler, seconded by John Hunt. Any discussion on those? All right, for voting sake,
yes.
We're going to have to do a roll call because Iris is joining us remotely. Iris, when it comes to vote, I'm always going to start with you, and then we'll work our way around the table. So all those in favor, Iris?
Aye.
John?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. That's passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Great. Next up, Megan, you're on deck, so have a seat. Thank you for joining us. We have resolution to select a grant application for Tompkins County submittal to the New York State County Infrastructure Grant Program, ID number 13815. I would move if I could have a seconder. Seconded by John Hunt. Megan, welcome. Yes. I will turn this over to you. This was a placeholder in our agenda packet, and there's been a revised copy, which is the one that's being moved, that was being moved and put on the floor, which has the awardee filled in and some additional language added to it. So we made the decision to put it in as a placeholder in the agenda so that the selection committee could have time to meet and review, but because of timing for this resolution, we wanted to keep things moving forward. So now that it's on the floor, Megan, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Yes. So we're on a little bit of an expedited timeline. This is a grant opportunity through Empire State Development, ESD, and essentially there's a multi-part process to be able to go to a full application by their deadline. So the county ran an expression of interest process so we could find out what projects, about projects we might not have already heard about that could be potentially eligible. The deadline was Monday afternoon, so we met quickly yesterday with the review team to look at the submittals, and we received 3 responses. So one in the village of Dryden, one in the town of Dryden, and one in the city of Ithaca. And looking at ESD's selection criteria, as well as county goals, one rose to the top. So the recommendation in your resolution is for the Hanshaw Village Infrastructure Upgrades proposal. And apologies, running from another interview, catching my breath.
You're doing great.
Need more exercise. There you go. And so this proposal, Hanshaw Village is a manufactured home park in the town of Dryden near Hanshaw and Etna Roads. And actually, if I get everything connected. If you need a location map or anything, I can help you with that. And this project, this is a facility, or this park has had ongoing both water and wastewater issues. And so the proposed upgrades would connect it with municipal water and sewer service, so correcting both of those issues. And it currently has 110 homes in the manufactured home community. It also has 22 vacant lots. And given the current water and septic issues, would not be buildable. With these upgrades, the park owner is proposing adding at least 10 new homes during the grant period, although they would ultimately be seeking to build out those 22 pads. So I don't know if there are any questions.
Mike Sigler.
So once the build-out is done, the owner of the park, they'll have to pay just like everybody else, right? Like there'll be a water bill, a sewer bill.
Right, yeah. So so the overall project costs for both connecting to water and to sewer are estimated at $3.5 million. The ESD grant opportunity is a 50% match, so you need at least a $2 million project if you want to request the maximum $1 million award, which this project would meet. And I should note that the town of Dryden had applied and received recently a CDBG Community Development Block Grant award to help get the sewer underneath Route 13 and up towards up Hanshaw Road. But there's still significant cost to bring it into the park itself and to build the water line. Gotcha. So this would help with that.
Iris.
Yeah, thanks for sharing this. I know we talked a little bit last night. I don't think you were there, Megan, but about manufactured homes and the possibility of using them as a way to increase housing options in the county. And I'm curious, do you know if these new properties that would be built would be owned by the owner of the whole facility, or would they be owned by the individuals who would be living in them?
Right. So as a manufactured home community, the land itself is owned by one owner, and there's a lot rent. So the owners would own their actual, the home itself, but have a lot rent, and that's true for the existing as well as, I would imagine, any future owners. New York State does have some legal restrictions on rent increases and how much they can increase and under what circumstances. So there is kind of that protection, but these are not kind of the capital A formerly affordable homes. But manufactured homes typically are lower cost than non-manufactured homes. And so that's part of sometimes they're referred to as naturally occurring affordable housing, because although they're not formally restricted, or you don't have to income qualify to purchase one, they're often the most affordable home buying opportunity.
Yeah, and I'm curious then, if they're renting the lot that it sits on, is it treated as a real property for the purposes of mortgage and all of that, or would this be this area, would these then still be treated as chattel and personal property?
I would have to follow up with those details because I don't want to say definitively. I probably would also, I might actually talk with our assessment director too. I think,
isn't New York State, if they're on a foundation, they're treated as real property, and if they're
right,
if
they
have axles essentially still on them, they're treated as I think that's, but again, that's my non-legal just.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And I just wasn't sure, given that they're renting it, whether that, like they're renting the land that it sits on. But I think that I was just wanting to make sure, because I think that's, an important part of helping build wealth. So, yeah, I think it sounds great. I mean, the other options, just reading through the little summary you sent, also looked interesting. So, it's hard for me to pick, but if this is your recommendation, then I certainly would defer to your expertise.
I will note that we have Skip Parr, the head of our environmental health division, on line 2. I think one thing that really rose with the review committee looking at county goals is the public health perspective, and the fact that we have both a state agency and our county both involved in wanting to correct some health and safety issues here.
Skip, are there things that you can publicly share on why this would be a benefit to the greater public health of the community?
Sure, I can touch on that. So we've been having water and sewage issues at Hanshaw Village for, I've been with the division for almost 20 years. And it's been kind of a piecemeal approach. But one of the big factors for me is the fact that the wells that supply the water to this park are almost 2 miles away. So the wells are located on Lower Creek Road, and they're pretty close to Fall Creek and subject to flooding. And so there's been upgrades to the treatment system, and they proposed, close to $500,000 of treatment upgrades. But from the Environmental Health Division standpoint, you have to have a good, reliable source. And with a transmission line that's almost 2 miles long, that cuts through private property, probably approaching 60 years of age, we have no idea what the condition of that line is. So, that's something that kind of keeps me up at night when you have 100+ homes. If something happens to that line or the source, then you have a lot of people without water. And then on the sewage side, they have an open lagoon. So we've been, trying to push DEC for years to evaluate that lagoon. And so what happened with a change in ownership, their Speedies permit expired. And so that made them look at the lagoon, and obviously it's not meeting treatment standards. And in both cases with water and sewer, it's kind of landlocked by private property, and there's really not enough room to put an on-site system in for sewage, and then you're talking a package plant, which really, based on what the DEC has indicated, isn't really viable for meeting today's treatment standards. So really, for long-term viability of this park, I really feel municipal, both water and sewer, is essential.
Appreciate the background, Skip. Thank you very much. Any questions for members of the committee around this resolution? Or other legislators joining us? No? Megan, if you're pulling up your screen, perfect. Show right where it is.
Yep. So this is just a location map. The yellow circle lurking in the bottom corner is the NYSEG development focus area and the county's development focus area strategy. So this is a little beyond that. And then if you see the green outline with the Hanshaw Village parcel label up at the top left corner, that's the park itself. So you can see the kind of diagonal line below is Route 13. So the infrastructure right now is below that, Route 13, and so it would be coming up. Hanshaw Road is the road to the left, up that way. And in talking with the Town of Dryden Planning Director, one thing that the town notes is without infrastructure currently, they're kind of limited with the zoning in this area. This is kind of on the western edge of their kind of residential development kind of focus. And a lot of the area in their comprehensive plan is currently, kind of designated for research and industrial because of that lack of infrastructure. But if infrastructure became available, they would be very interested in zoning revisions to increase the density in this area because they feel like that would actually advance their comprehensive plan goals because there's a lot more development potential if they could have that density that infrastructure would allow. So though this initial phase of the infrastructure really is just bringing things up Hanshaw Road, they can see, kind of going the road to the top there, Etna, has additional potential, and there's some large parcels that the infrastructure would be passing as well that would have more development potential if they could tap into public infrastructure.
Mike.
Just out of curiosity, where's the lagoon? Can you see it on that map?
Skip, you can probably try to zoom in here. You might be able to see
Zoom in
that
too close.
more.
Yeah, I believe it's that area, I don't know. It looks like a pond. I mean,
it that
right
square thing?
behind right where that mark is. I believe that's the lagoon.
All right.
So that's like a wastewater lagoon? Is that,
Correct.
oh, that's a new one for me. That's interesting.
That's what I was thinking.
They're not allowed anymore. So there's only a couple in the county currently.
We used to call those settling ponds.
Nice, your name.
All right. No other question. Megan, just the history of this grant, too, for context. This was last year we applied for similar.
Yeah, so this is a new program through New York State. This is the second year. There was rumors last year it would be annual, so the hope is it will continue. So last year, the first project the county submitted is an initial part of the initial phase of the Southworks project that straddles the town and city of Ithaca line. So that project, we are learning the ESD process. They are also learning kind of as they go. And also kind of the new tweak on that project that's delayed things a bit is New York State Homes and Community Renewal asked to increase the amount of affordable housing they saw potential, which I think is a real win for our community. So we're looking at significantly more affordable housing than originally projected, but it means additional buildings and shifting where the infrastructure is going. So that has kind of lengthened the timeline there, but we're still on track for that. So this would be the second one. And to Iris's point about, I do want to stop and we talk a lot about housing challenges here, but to celebrate our wins, and not all counties were able to put forward $1 million, infrastructure project to actually support housing last year. So the fact that both last year and this year we were blessed with choices and that we have many things happening in our community despite all of the headwinds and challenges, I think speaks to the work across many sectors and many individuals, that there are multiple things happening in our community and we wish we could support them all. So I do want to kind of celebrate that we're fortunate that we've got many efforts to advance housing and increase the supply in our community.
And I think this is a great opportunity and way, a great example of how our planning department and the role that the county can play in supporting these type of programs and, sorting through the applications. Full disclosure, this is also in my district, but I was not part of the selection committee for that. But I am fully supportive, as I would be in any district of this type of upgrade to infrastructure. Some of our, manufactured home communities are great places to live and raise families and to age in place and all of those type of things, but are often lacking critical infrastructure. So I think this is a huge win, and probably will free up some time for Skip and his team as they will hopefully no longer face some of those environmental health challenges. No other questions or comments, so we're going to go ahead and call for a vote. So we'll start with Iris. All in favor?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Adam?
I'm going to have to abstain only because I missed the first half.
Okay. And I am a yes. So that passes 4-0 to 1. And thank you very much, Megan. I know this is a lot of quick work by you and your team, and I'm sure you'll keep us up to date on the progress of this and the other project from last year. Thank you. If I may also, too, before we jump into appointments, we are joined by our commissioner, right, of social services. We've got Brittany with us, and I see Dina's online as well. This is the last time you'll have to formally, you didn't really have to formally come to the committee today, but due to some communication lines crossing, the change that leadership has decided is that topics relating to our unhoused, homeless response, and other what I'll call sort of DSS, supportive service housing, is going to live in Health and Human Services, while we still will look at the totality of housing and access to housing in this committee. Some of the nuanced programs that the county runs as it relates to supportive services and temporary shelter are going to end up in Health and Human Services. So I want to first say thank you to Brittany and team. I think this is a change over the last 2 years where your department has come to multiple committees and had to sort of straddle and split your time. We appreciate the work that you all have done, the good work that your team is doing to address the needs. We'll miss you in our committee, but I'm sure Health and Human Services will treat you well, and we look forward to the updates to continue there. But you said you had some good news, so I figured I'd give you the floor for a little bit, and then you could get back to the good work that you're doing.
Thank you. Yes, so I do have good news. This is something that has been in the works since May of 2025, so the last 8 months. We were approved through the state for the Public Assistance Shelter Supplement, are called PASS, for both single individuals, childless couples, and families. So single individuals, childless couples, and families. So that's great news. And what this does is it will allow us to support individuals and families moving into permanent supportive housing to offset the cost of rent. So in Tompkins County, the HUD fair market rental rate for 1 bedroom is $1,466, and the fair market value is significantly higher than the public assistance shelter allowance, which is currently at $217. And what this approval will allow us to do is raise the new shelter allowance to $1,029 for a household of 1, or $1,239 for a household of 2. And with the new shelter allowance, along with that supplement, that raises for a household size of 2 to $1,490. Again, that is a significant increase to help offset the cost of housing, and this will have a potential gross savings of over $600,000 annually, but in terms of local cost, it could be upwards of $437,000. That is, of course, I can get into the nuance and details of that by giving this info offline so that you can go through it, but that is the potential savings. And we will have a monthly maximum of 25 shelter supplements for single individuals and childless couples. For families, right now the maximum public assistance shelter allowance for a family of 3 is $317, and then to put that into perspective, according to HUD, the 2026 fair market rent rate for a 2-bedroom is $1,753, $2,100 for a 3-bedroom, and $2,624 for a 4-bedroom. So that's nearly 5 times the PA shelter allowance for a family of 3 living in a 2-bedroom. And what this will do is for a family of 3, that will, with the shelter supplement, will also be the $1,490. So again, that's a significant increase in their ability to pay. And that, looking at the numbers, it's a gross yearly savings of up to $160,800, but because we get a mix of federal and state reimbursement, that could be a local cost savings of up to roughly $23,000. And for families, the monthly that we will get is 5. So 5 shelter supplements to move families into permanent supportive housing per month. And again, with the individuals, that is the 25 shelter supplements.
That's great.
Per month.
That's great news. So
This could last for 3 years.
So 3 years.
For the person to continue using it up to 3 years. Hold on, I just highlighted it.
And then do we have to renew our application, or the program? Is that how it works, or is it?
Yep. So it says the public assistance shelter supplement will continue for 3 years as long as the individual childless couple or family continue to meet the public assistance eligibility requirements. Extensions can be granted on a case-by-case basis with approval of the local DSS, so us. And then Dina has been the mind behind doing all this, submitting it, and has been the one working very diligently and hard on this application, and the submission and the multiple revisions. So if she has anything to add, or she might be able to answer that question if we have to reapply, or if it's just going to continue.
Well, Gina, thank you for your work on this. I know navigating these, well, I don't know because I've never had to, but from what I've heard from all of you that have to submit these type of applications and go through the hoops to get these programs in our community, it can be quite a bit of work. So thank you for spearheading and leading the charge on this.
Thank you. I'll say that OTDA actually gave us a lot of support in writing it and technical assistance. So I believe that there's not a time limit. So there's the limit in terms of the number of supplements that we can have currently. But as people no longer need the supplement, we can bring new people on. And I don't think there's an end date to the actual program itself. Also, if the number of families or individuals that if we really max out and we have more eligible families or individuals, we can submit a request for an amendment and increase that number. So we initially asked for higher numbers, but they were hesitant, so they brought it back and said, when you max it out, then call us. So
that's great.
That's where we're at.
Questions? Irene, please.
I don't have a question, but I want to thank Brittany and Dina especially for all the work that went into this. But so some of you know that the newer group of legislators are going around and meeting with different departments to learn what they do. And one of the requests that I've been voicing to all of the departments is bring good news. And so I really want to thank Brittany for doing that, and certainly Dina for the work that went into it. But it just feels like to me there is so much amazing stuff that's happening in this county, and sometimes we get bogged down in all the details and the struggles. But I really feel like it's important for folks to know what we do that's working and supporting and helping people. So I just want to thank you for bringing the good news. I hope Monica appreciates it too, and that we can, and even Megan from the Ithaca Voice, that we can start showing ways that the county is really succeeding in so many ways. And I think it's important right now for the public to know, what good government really looks like. So thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions for our friends from DSS? Okay, seeing none, thank you so much. Thanks for getting your steps in and making your way over here, even though you didn't have to. But appreciate the good news and again, grateful for our time to work together and look forward to continuing that relationship through other committees and work at the full legislature. So keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll get back on track with our agenda. Next, we have appointments. There is a resolution appointments to the Tompkins County Industrial Development Agency, TCIDA, and the Tompkins County Development Corporation Board of Directors. That's doc ID 13822. If I could have a mover. Moved by Adam, seconded by Iris. Open it up for questions, comments. Mike Sigler.
I mean, I'd like to know the viewpoints of the three people that we're thinking about appointing. I mean, is there any answer sheet, or usually when we get people who are going to be appointed to something like this, they kind of lay something out?
Historically, I mean, I'm happy to share my views since I'm one of the individuals on here. I can't speak for Legislator Dawson or Black.
Well, and Duxon as well. I mean, we're appointing 4 people. It's a lot.
Sorry, and Duxon, yes. And Patrice Smith, a member of Prentice Smith, member of.
5 people we're appointing?
Yes,
today?
member of organized
So
labor.
more than half of the,
Correct. Duxon, myself, and Deborah are all returning members. So I think historically you can look at voting records and previous, Shauna has also been a member previously. And Prentice is a member of the organized labor representative, and they have not been on the board before, but based on our local labor policy and our commitment to keeping a seat designated for labor, with the swap out of the previous labor person, Todd Brewer, Prentice is the one filling that seat. I'm happy to ask these individuals to come to, well, 3 of us will be at the next legislature meeting, but to ask other individuals to come to the legislature meeting if we have questions on their viewpoints, or how they feel the IDA, whatever questions you may have. These are typically have been chairs appointments that are confirmed by the legislature. Mike?
well, since you're here, how do you feel about if someone is given a tax break for 7 years, which is typical, and then they sell the property? Do you think that that tax break should carry over to the new owner?
So I've said from the beginning of my time on the legislature, and even before I ran, that we abate properties, not developers. And so I fully believe that if we feel the benefit to the project from pre-day one is there, that the benefit to the community should remain there in years 4, 5, 6, 7, regardless of who owns it, right? We're looking at a project that's of benefit to the community, and that's why we provide the abatement. We don't abate the owner or the developer, but we're committing to that project having some greater good that it's serving in the community, and that's why we make the decision to provide some sort of tax incentive. I do believe it should stay with the property even through sale.
And how do you feel, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, you're the
That's
only one here. How do you feel about the difference between perhaps supporting housing versus jobs? Which should take precedence?
I think it depends on the project at hand. I think there's an element of how many jobs does a housing project create. That's
construction.
Construction. Those are sort of temporary, but also looking at the permanent jobs. There's typically not many in housing developments, right? There may be 1 or 2 or a small handful of people depending on the size. I think that one of the things that the IDA needs to do is start looking at some of our other nodal development focus areas and see how we don't just take focus on the city of Ithaca and the CTAP area and solar projects outside of the city. I think that there's an opportunity for us to work with other municipalities to try to figure out how can we be incentivizing the type of development, either industrial, job creating, like in my district, Knickerbocker, right? That was a great example of the IDA supporting a job creation and a good company coming to the community. So I think that there's a balance. It's not all housing. Housing has been one of the largest needs that we've seen in our community over the last several decades, but we also still need to continue to attract job creators and good paying employers.
Well, if I vote against this, it's not because of you.
Thanks.
Just letting you know that, although I disagree with your first answer.
That's okay. That's the beautiful thing about democracy.
It is a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Iris?
Love democracy. I think that's an interesting question. And I feel like it sort of sets up a false dichotomy of like housing versus jobs. I think my understanding of our goals here is when we're creating jobs, we want them to be good jobs. They may not be permanent jobs because, as you said, that's the nature of construction. But let's see how much we can keep those benefits, among residents of Tompkins County, right? Like, can we employ local workers? Can we make sure they're getting paid a livable wage? You know, they can take care of their families with their benefits, that kind of thing. So I hope that that is part of what the folks on the IDA will be looking at is, you know, when these jobs are created, how do we maximize benefit to our community? So I'm excited to see what this new cohort looks like.
Yeah, no, great points. Mike Sigler.
No, those are great points. I didn't mean to set up a dichotomy at all. I just, the focus, like Greg brought up Knickerbocker. That was like 5 years ago. I mean, and if that's the last example we have of something that was really job creating, that I see as a problem. And it really has been very, as Ms. Alt will say, very housing orientated over the last, I don't know, however many years. So, yeah. Not to speak for you, Teresa, but I see it back there.
You know, and I was speaking with somebody recently, you know, and if you look at our vacancy rate, you know, I remember when I first moved to Ithaca, right, we were 0.0 something, you know, very, very, very low vacancy rate, right? An unhealthy low vacancy rate. And now I think the most recent report, or somebody had mentioned this number, it's trending upwards, you know, above, almost above 5% vacancy, which I think is what will help create healthy competition and challenge owners and developers to look at pricing and those type of things. So I do believe that the tool has been effective, but I do think, and if you look at the work that the IDA committees are doing around housing and labor, it's trying to look at what is sort of what I'll call the next frontier of needs for our community, which I think and we'll hear Chris talk about this in a little bit, but the need for jobs and good paying jobs and to attract good employers. Some of that is we need sites. Some of that is we need to be creative with the existing sites and infrastructure that we do have and how we go out there. And I believe that the new president of IAED and the team that we have there as our economic development agency is well positioning themselves to tackle and to really face that challenge. And I think as we see a little bit of a softening in our housing market, we're going to need to shift, right, to what's the next industrial, how do we take advantage of Syracuse development with Micron or battery storage in Binghamton, right? How do we work as sort of this middle ground in between? There's a lot of work to still be done, and I think that the role of the IDA, IAED, and the Development Corporation are going to be heavy-handed in the success of that. Mike.
Can I ask one more question? I don't want to take up too much time, but
no.
Would you be open to the idea, again, because you're the only one here, would you be open to the idea if an existing company came forward and said, listen, here's the choices, either we leave or we would like to be able to tap into a tax abatement, even though they've been existing, say, for 30 years. I feel like we've kind of set ourselves up for like the spectrum dichotomy or the spectrum idea where, oh, listen, you can sign up if you're new for $20 per month.
But if you're existing, you get.
But you get nothing.
I call every 12 months and complain to Spectrum.
So it's the same kind of idea, right? We have Borg Warner, 800 employees, which I believe is struggling. What if they were to come forward and say, listen, we would like to tap into the IDA's benefits here? Would you be open to that? I don't think we've ever done that.
I won't give an answer on a specific.
That's fine.
Because I don't think that's fair to the process. And
fair enough.
There's some legal challenges that, you know, with advice of counsel at the IDA, I would want to consider first. But let me put it in a way I think would best address your question. We need to do everything in our ability as a community to attract and retain good employers and good jobs and good community partners. And so if something came forward, I would absolutely approach it with an open mind because I think the core mission of economic development is not just new attraction, but also retention of existing employers.
Thank you, Greg.
Sure. Anybody else want to ask me any questions? All right. Any other debate or discussion on this? Typically, if we were to debate or discuss individual members, we would need to do that in executive session. I sort of opened myself up to that, but if we wanted to speak more specifically about any other individual, we would need to move into executive session for a more in-depth discussion. Okay, seeing no other discussion, we're going to go ahead and call for a vote. Iris?
Yes.
John? Yes. Mike?
No.
Adam?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. That passes 4-1. Mike, if it's your desire, would you like me to request of these other individuals to be present for the meeting, or do you have any questions you'd like to submit to them in advance of that to help with your deliberation?
Sure. I mean, if they would like to tell me what their viewpoint is, I mean, they obviously don't have to. I mean,
sure. If you want, do you want to maybe draft a couple of questions or similar questions? We can watch this back to what you asked me.
I'll probably watch this back and
just send me those, and then I'll share those with other members that are identified in this resolution.
Yep. All right.
All right. Great. That takes care of that. The next one we have is appointments. 2026 legislator appointments. This is ID number 13816, and these are to be voted on, and then these will also be confirmed by the legislature. One of the things that I would like to add to this list is the Downtown Ithaca Alliance representative. Veronica Pillar is a current 2-year serving legislator on that. Most of their district is covered by the DIA, and if we were to reappoint them, their term would be effective starting April 15th, 26, and that would be a 2-year term. Iris, I see you've got a hand.
Sorry, this is going back to the IDA. I had a question. I couldn't recall if we ended up adding a couple of seats for school board representatives, and if so, when those appointments would be.
Sure. So we have requested home rule determination by our state partners. Senator Webb and Assemblyperson Kellis have that resolution. At the end of last year, we reaffirmed that request for their legislative session, and that has not been fully enacted yet. But just to clarify, it's for a representative, it adds 2 seats, and then it lists a number of different sectors that could be represented by those seats. And school district involvement, it could be a member of the school board, it could be a superintendent, it could be a PTA person, it could be a teachers union representative. I just want to make sure we're working from the same language. It's not just for a school board representative. Could very likely end up being that, but that has not taken effect just yet. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and move the 2026 legislator appointments. The first is, this is ID 13816, Community Housing Development Fund Program Oversight Committee. Greg Mezey, myself, legislator, term expires when once member resigns or leaves office. Rachel Osland, legislator, term expires once member resigns or leaves office. And then Adam Vinson, legislator alternate, term expires once member resigns or leaves office. Southern Tier 8 Regional Board, Greg Mezey, that's myself, term expires December 31st, 2029. And then DIA, Veronica Pillar, effective April 15th, 2026 for a 2-year term. And I would move if I could have a seconder. Seconded by Mike Sigler. Discussion on these appointments. I'm happy to provide some historical context if it would be helpful for members of the committee that are new and joining us.
Sure.
Iris?
I was curious about these being for the whole, until the member resigns or leaves office. That seems longer than the other ones I've seen. Is that, why is that, I guess? Maybe that's historical context. And is there room for, people to shift around?
Yeah.
Or is that usually done?
Yeah, historically, it has, some have come and gone. Some have said, hey, you know, I can't accommodate this in my schedule anymore, and we've swapped people in and out. There's definitely flexibility if other members want to, you know, jump in at some point and somebody wants to jump out. It's typically, these appointments are a little bit longer because of the sort of the institutional memory and sort of the rhythm that this gets into. It's very helpful. I am the only returning member to the Community Housing Development Fund from the legislature. And I will say that the alternate is an important position because there's at times scheduling conflicts and there's a need to make sure that we have a quorum of representation from each of the funding partners. So that's actually a critical alternate. Sometimes the alternate position is not as critical, but this is one where that person can play a role in that committee. Southern Tier 8, I've been on that board, and I've actually asked to be chair of that board for next year, and have accepted that role. So if that wouldn't get accepted, there'd be a challenge there for them to find a new chair. And so then the DIA, I really just wanted to add this to the list so we could see it in its totality, but knowing that the term Veronica currently carries is through April. Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. Oh, Iris, go ahead.
Sorry, with the Veronica term ending in April, do they want to continue after April?
Yes, they've requested.
Oh, okay.
They've requested to stay on. They sent me an email requesting that, and I had said that I would bring it up to the committee. And if there's a member of the committee that wants to have this, we can obviously pull that off and have that conversation and try to work through if there's two people that want to go for that position. But I would say, you know, Veronica has represented us well on the DIA. And
no, that's great. I just wasn't sure if you were saying that it ends in April, so we need someone else.
No. Their appointment would end in April, and then this would just be reappointing them for an April start. Trying to get ahead of the legislative calendar. All right. We'll go ahead and call for a vote. Iris? Yes. John? Yes. Mike Sigler? Yes. Adam?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. That passes. The next one, 2026 Housing and Economic Development Committee Liaison Assignments. We're one of the groups that has very few liaison appointments, not like Peak, that I think has like 5 appointments for every member on the board. But this would be for the Strategic Tourism Planning Board, and I would ask that I would like to appoint myself as the legislative liaison. I served 6 years as a member of that committee. I've recently stepped down as a member because I felt there was an opportunity for others in the community to get involved in a membership role, but it's still an area that I'm very passionate and highly engaged in. So I would like to continue in that capacity without objection. Mike.
So the STP funds, those are drawn mostly from the hotel tax?
So the Strategic Tourism Planning Board oversees the funds collected through the room tax program and makes recommendations to the legislature on how those funds are allocated. But ultimately, the legislature is the deciding factor on those funds.
So since you're going to be the voting member on this?
I'm not a voting member.
You'll just be the liaison?
I'm just a liaison to what you were last year.
So don't we have a voting member on that?
We don't have the legislature does not have a voting member on STPB.
So when I was the liaison, what was your role?
I was a member, at-large member.
Oh, but not part of the legislature?
But not part of the legislature.
Gotcha.
Separate from my legislative work.
Understood.
Okay. All right. Well, seeing no objection, then that we don't need to.
One more question.
Do you have objection? Okay. Go
so will you not be an at-large member anymore then?
Correct. My at-large term ended at December 31 of 25.
Gotcha.
I did not seek another appointment for a 3-year term, for another 3-year term, which is the max is 3-3-year terms that an individual can have. How'd I do, Nick? Okay? All right. Man, I'm in the hot seat today. All right. So seeing no objection, that will be. Whew. We have Chair's report. One of the things I'd like to have a brief discussion on is any committee goals. I like these and I don't like these, and I want to maybe challenge us to think broadly and big picture if there's some specific things. So what I'd like us to do is maybe spend a few minutes of why are people here, right? There's 5 of us. We're also joined by another legislator. And Irene, please feel free to jump in. But trying to want to understand why all of us wanted to be on this committee and see how that can help shape the work in 2026. Obviously, work plans for our committees were due, Bridget, last Friday?
From the department.
From the department, so we'll see them in March. And so our goals and work plans should align. And if they don't, then we need to have some sort of conversation on what are our real legislative priorities and what are the work plan priorities, and if there's adjustments that need to be made. So I would open it up to members to get a sense of the committee of what are topics we'd like to work on, why we're here, and what we hope to accomplish through the Housing and Economic Development Committee in 2026 and beyond for my Toy Story fans. Mike Sigler.
I can. I think ever since I started at the legislature, the number one factor of any kind of development is water sewer. So, and I look around, and every one of our sewer systems is in trouble, whether it be Cayuga Heights. They're old systems. I mean, we're talking 50 years. I mean, you have to go back to Reagan when I think there was a major investment in water sewer across the country. And so all those systems now are just dated. And then the one in Ithaca is, I mean, you're talking anywhere between $100 million and $200 million. And unless we really address water sewer, then you're just not going to see development. It just won't be possible. And that puts a lot of other things in jeopardy, like the lake and the creeks. And I mean, it just kind of, it's the thing nobody wants to talk about. And when I used to talk to IAED about this, it's like the thing that nobody really talks about is the sewer, right? But without it, you can't get any kind of density. So that's something I'd like to focus on. I mean, I hope that the community housing it really kind of looks at that too, because you can't build anything of scale without that. I would like to see, and this is something that's disagreeable to a lot of people, I would like to bring Cornell more off the hill. I think we're setting us up as a very bifurcated area, whereas Cornell's on the hill and then there's the rest. And a lot of people don't want them to come off the hill. I am not one of those people. But the other thing I'd like to see us focus on is when we talk about economic development, I sit in downtown Ithaca and you would never know that you're on the longest finger lake in the area. I mean, you just, and I find that very just odd, to be honest with you. And now I drive down Route 13, I can't see, I mean, they've decided to build 4 to 5 floors and you can't see the mountains, you can't see anything. And it's, I don't know. I just see us kind of moving backwards in some respects of kind of what the county is about. So I don't know. I'm trying to see where will be the development outside of Cornell. And that's kind of what I would like to see us focus on. And when I say bring Cornell out of Cornell, I mean with industries too. I look at some of our biggest success stories. It's like Rosie was a huge success for Ithaca. And that came out of, people from Cornell. Even Knickerbocker the only reason the person's here is because they went to Cornell and their family came from Cornell. So they are just an integral part of every kind of development we have to make, and that's part of what I mean by bringing them more off the Hill. So I would just like to see this committee have a much better working relationship, and therefore the county have a much better working relationship with Cornell.
Mike, the only thing I want to correct, sorry to interrupt.
No problem.
Knickerbocker is here because it's a community that was supportive to them coming here. There was there's already a knowledge and awareness of Cornell and Ithaca because of the affinity that existed. But I think that we put a competitive and compelling reason why this is a good place to have a company like that, because they did have other options on the table.
Fair, yes, they did. And I didn't mean to discount any of the efforts, Greg. I just, I mean, there was a hook, right? And the hook was Cornell.
Sure. Yeah.
And then, yes, we were able to capitalize on that hook, I think.
It's a hook for a lot of us.
Too, actually.
Yeah.
Pardon?
It's a hook for a lot of us.
Yes. No, I know, of course.
Yeah.
So I'll let other people talk.
Okay. Other members of the committee or legislators? No? Nobody? Irene?
Yeah. This is a rare moment, Mike. I pretty much agree with what you said. So thank you.
No problem.
Yeah. In addition to what Mike has said, one of the pieces that I would like to see us kind of integrate or cross over is there's oftentimes what seems to be, I think Iris used the term earlier, a false dichotomy between economic development and environmental protection. And I would really like us to not only see that they're integrally connected, but for me, it's even more than that. As everything is, as the climate is changing, as we are looking to make progress on environmental issues and reduction of fossil fuel use, Tompkins County has been a leader, literally influenced Albany in multiple ways. The affordable housing that went in on the north side not only went in with heat pumps, but actually changed the thinking of how New York State was going to build affordable housing. That starting at that point forward, all affordable housing would have to be with heat pumps and electrification and not using gas anymore. Partly because when you build a really tight building, any of the gas fumes that are in there from cooking with gas, heating with gas, become really a health hazard inside the building. But beyond that, it just made sense that we don't want to build affordable housing that then leaves people behind later on, because these are projects that theoretically last 50, 60, 70 years. So building with environment in mind, future proofs. And to my mind, it even more than that, it puts us in a place where we can actually lead, to show, businesses, whomever, who have an environmental conscience, or at least recognize the fact that there's going to be increasing pressure to reduce their scope 3 and their scope 2 and scope 1 emissions, that we've got it figured out, and we've already been thinking about how to accomplish that. And so I think that, rather than seeing us as pitted against each other, I think that building with some of the environmental opportunities in mind will entice good business and good practice and lead the state. And I think that that's a real opportunity for us.
Thank you. Iris?
Yeah. Appreciate you asking the question. I think there's a lot of reasons why I'm interested in the work of this committee and this subject matter. Having canvassed so many residents, housing is the number one issue for everybody, right? It's either it's too expensive, there's not enough of it, it's not in good shape. And so that is an issue that I want to jump in and learn more about from our amazing staff and also the veteran legislators who have already been down this road. So it's about learning, but it's also then about trying to think about creative solutions. It's personal for me too. I grew up here. I lived in a lot of different affordable housing. I lived in some horrible Section 8 homes where the ceiling was falling in, or there were mushrooms growing out of the carpet because it was so humid, or, just like really terrible conditions. But I've also lived in some great, like INHS. I lived in the Henry St. John building as a kid and teenager. And that was amazing, right? Having a place to live with dignity that was also affordable for my family. And so I know that that's possible. And I want to see that as something that is a reality for people. Having a lower income should not be mean that you have to live in substandard conditions. And so I want to be part of coming up with some solutions. And then it's, my professional area of interest is around good jobs and how do we kind of approach things from an economic development angle. So I have exposure to ideas of policy, things that are going on in other states and localities that I'd be interested in kind of feeling out for the area. But also, I see us as I think Mike said, and you said that like kind of could be a model, right? We could be an example for the area of trying things out, innovating, and I think, and also to Irene's point, making things more sustainable. And that's a word that can encompass a lot of different layers. So I'm excited to both learn and bring some areas of knowledge that I have and try to understand more of the role that the county can play in trying to help address this housing crisis that we're in. So I'm excited about the manufactured homes option, for example. How do we create more quality, affordable housing where people can start investing and building generational wealth where they didn't have it. That's not something that, my family had. And it makes a big difference when you're setting up for the next generation. So I think that's a lot of what I'm interested in. And I know there's a lot more. I haven't even scratched the surface of all that the committee works on. So also I'll be a sponge.
Great. Iris, I appreciate the personal perspective. And you sharing that for sure. John?
Okay, I'm not sure if this comes under the purview of this committee for sure, but Mike brought up sewers. And I remember hearing a report from Sigler County about a program where they inspected all of the sewers up and down the housing on either side of their lake, Seneca. And I wonder if that's been done here in Cayuga County or the other counties that share the lake with us to make sure that they are properly functioning. And along with that, there is a New York State program, I believe, and I have a link to that I got from a friend, where New York State will provide, I think, $10,000 in support if there is a problem with the sewer system to get it up to specs. And then also working with other counties in that effort. But again, I don't know if that's another committee's responsibility, but kind of subject came up.
Yeah, then that's something in terms of infrastructure that I think we'll have to sort of bridge, to use an infrastructure term, how and where we have that discussion. I know IAED did a water and sewer study several years ago now, and so there is an economic development component to it. It's not really a county facility, so I would just want to work with Lee and F&I but I think
which is another committee I'm on.
Yeah, so there's some crossover, but from an economic development standpoint, it's definitely something that we can talk more about. Some of the things that I have on my list are making sure that we complete our housing study this year, which I know David and team is working diligently on getting that underway. We have an economic development strategy that was on hold for a new leader at Ithaca Area Economic Development to kind of put the finishing touches on and wrap that up in a bow. So I'd like to have an opportunity to review that and see what type of strategies we can pull from that and things that align with the county's work plan and how we can further advance and support that. We also have a minimum wage study that should be kicking off with a number of, what was the term that they used? Like iterations or convenings. A number of convenings. I'm not key on my academic research terms these days, but sort of seeing what comes out of that and where there's opportunity for wage growth or wage disparity, and then continuing to invest in workforce development as we have the conversation around the need for good jobs, good labor jobs, and all of those things. So I think we've got a pretty good list of conceptual ideas. I'll work to kind of distill these down, and we can continue to review and check them off as we have more conversation. And if something comes to you after this meeting, feel free to sort of share with the group via email. But I think this is a good start. We're all on the same page, and I'm glad you guys realized that this wasn't budget and capital, that you're actually here for housing and economic development. So thank you. You're at the right place. I am going to move through now to, there's a member filed resolution, which I'm going to ask that we pull from the agenda pending further legal review. And at the end of the meeting, we will have a brief advice of counsel session that's not open to the public, so that our county attorney can provide a little bit of a legal perspective to that conversation. And then from there, we'll make a determination if and when we have a more public conversation around that topic. Is that fair? Mm-hmm. Okay. County Administrator's report. Bridget.
No report today. However, just in terms of the minimum wage study, we are in the final process of negotiating the contract with the selected consultant for that. So I hope to have a broader report next month.
Great. Any questions for County Administration? Okay. You holding down the fort okay with, of course, on vacation?
So far.
All right. Planning and, no, we got workforce development. Chris, you're on deck. Come on up. Gee, in case anybody knows, Chris is the biggest Browns fan in all of Tompkins County. If you haven't met him, he loves the Browns, he loves the Steelers, he loves the Patriots.
He has none of those stickers on his
computer. He loves the Jets.
So I doubt what you're saying.
No, I do in fact love those teams because they are awful and the Bills beat them down whenever they play them. So I do appreciate that commentary.
If you go to Chris's office, you will get either jumped by some sort of cat statue in the window or Bills memorabilia or something of the oddities. Chris is a big Bills fan.
Yes, that is very true. I'm a big Bills fan, so nice to see you, Greg, and Mike, and to the new members. Happy to see you. You're free to come visit my office, meet our department. I can also go to you to talk more about what we do and all that good stuff. So let me get started here in a second. I got to share my PowerPoint.
And I'll probably call on that time when I'm home. Okay. Yeah, right. Bye.
Chris, I also love that you took a comment from an HED committee meeting and turned it into some actionable items around your 10-point plan.
Oh yeah, we'll get more into that. Can everyone see my screen? We're good.
Yes.
So hi, I'm Chris. I'm the director of Tompkins County Workforce Development. So we believe in giving everybody an opportunity. So we are here to get them on the right pathway in their life. So someone may have a job, but it may not be the best job. Sure, the unemployment may be low in the area, but you may have a job at Taco Bell with no benefits and no control over your hours. So we're that lifeline for someone to get them on the right pathway in life. Or they may not have a job, or they may be a displaced worker. They may be a veteran. So we offer a lot of programs that help get people on the right track. I could definitely get more into those in a future meeting, but I just want to give you the quick overview of that. So at the last meeting, I presented on the Rising Storm report by Lightcast, and this basically did a deep dive into all the data that's out there, analysis of what's going on in the world and in this country, and what we're facing is what they call the silver tsunami. So They came up with that word, not me. And I also have silver hair slowly too, so I hope I didn't offend anybody, but that's what they're calling it, the silver tsunami. And basically that means in 5 to 10 years, a ton of workers are volunteering, are retiring. So I think that you can probably think about it in your own life that you probably have friends or colleagues who have already retired or are talking about retiring, or you might have a parent or guardian who is thinking about retiring very soon. So that is a huge wave of retirees coming through, and that's really applies all across the country, and specifically here too. Even if you think about in your own workplace, I can think of in my workplace, there's a lot of department heads who will probably be retiring very soon if they have the opportunity to do so. And you can kind of, if you go to a Tompkins County department, you can look at all levels. You know, there are going to be people leaving very soon, and when looking at the back end, who's going to fill in those spots and what are we going to do? Because that puts us at significant risk as a county and our service delivery, and then just also for our businesses in general, like who are filling in those spots. So that is really the issue that we face. We don't have that massive supply of like in the baby boomer generation, you know, there's just so many workers out there. Right now, we have declining populations. Immigration has been tough, like we're not getting as many immigrants coming into this country as we have in years past. So we really need to explore different ways to be creative. So I did that report. Chairperson Mezey said that come up with a 10-point plan for Tompkins County, and I'm pretty sure he was partly kidding, but then also partly serious. So I played around with this a bit. This is the free version. I don't have $40 million to solve societal issues that are at hand, but these are just some 10 that jump out to me. Is that something that businesses can do or we can do ourselves, or something that we really need to think about as a community? Now, these are all enhancements. I'm not here to say this group is doing something bad. They're not doing it right. We need to do this better. I think everyone's working very hard. That's what makes me proud to be a Tompkins County resident is the collaboration, just all these great organizations that are around and working from there. So I'll begin. I have 5 points per slide. So expand skills-based hiring. So what this really means is employers need to rethink about their hiring process. A lot of times people complain, we didn't get that many applicants. You know, what's going on? And maybe your job description is just too strict. You may be requiring an undergraduate degree, and maybe you may not necessarily need that. You know, someone may have transferable skills in a previous occupation that they've had where those skills are equivalent to a college degree or better. I even know people who have an undergraduate degree who cannot think straightly and stuff like that, but I know people who may just have a high school diploma, not even that, and I know that they will work a million times harder than that other person. So I think a lot of times we are restricting ourselves when we make these job descriptions very intimidating or overwhelming. They may not cater to specific people, like by gender, race, different things like that. Just the way it's written may turn off somebody and discourage them. Accelerate healthcare workforce development. So healthcare is a major employer in our industry, so we have a lot of great things going on. TC3 has a nursing program. BOCES has a strong healthcare programming. We have IC with their health school also. We did a healthcare careers expo for area youth in the area, so we had 400 youth sign up, and they got to go to IC and attend workshops with different speakers in different healthcare fields to make them think about what careers are out there. And then we also had an exhibit hall where they got to meet employers. So Guthrie was there, Centralis was there, a couple county departments were there. So that was a collaboration of organizations that we did. That's great, but so what? I mean, what's next? You know, like how are we connecting everything together? You know, there needs to be bridges, ladders of opportunity. So I think that as an area, that's a priority of mine, is us to really think about what's out there, and then how are we connecting everything together, because there's plenty of talent out there. It's just a matter of aligning resources in that area. And I think a lot of times it gets overlooked because there's so many powerful players in this market, but no one's like really putting their heads together to how do we streamline all of this. The next piece, retain college graduates in the local workforce. Again, we have students from IC, TC3, Cornell, thousands of students every year coming through here. What are we doing to keep them here? So I've been talking with Paula Younger at IC. She's the Executive Director for Government, Community, and Constituent Relations. She's also on the Tompkins County Workforce Development Board. So we're gonna do a pilot program of engaging college students. I don't have that fully written out, but it's like, what are we doing while they're here, you know, engaging with our community? They may just go to class and just not leave the space. So how do we open their minds about staying in Ithaca? Stay in Ithaca. That's not the official name for it, Greg, but something, because even if we can take like 5% of these kids, you know, something, 2% even, that's something that's staying here, but we always have this brain drain of people constantly leaving. Strengthen apprenticeships and pre-apprenticeship programs in skilled trades. We have Tompkins Build, Pathways to Apprenticeships. So that's a program that's going on. 2 cohorts have happened, and it's really meant to engage folks from all walks of the community. So women, people of color, just engaging people from different backgrounds who have not thought about construction as a career pathway. So that's something we're really excited about, and that's gonna start its 3rd cohort very soon. So I encourage you all to come to the site when that happens. So IAED has been doing a lot of great work with that. So we just need to continue to support this program, because there was a grant that came in that helped boost this program, if you remember, and that grant will expire by the end of the summer. So what are we doing with our resources to support that? I don't know. Are there creative ways with the IDA, with funding and things like that? Because this program really is retaining talent in our area. Build it, because a lot of times unions actually pull people from outside the area, and that costs a ton of money just to bring them in to do work. So we need to be creative there. Enhanced support for underrepresented and disconnected workers. Again, just removing those barriers. So we do have a disability resource coordinator. So that person, Joel, works with the community, so those with disabilities, getting them on the right path, helping them navigate the whole benefits maze of everything and making sure they're keeping their benefits while working. And then he's also tasked with working with the business community, engaging them, and not making the process so intimidating for them, because when we talk to employers, a lot of them are interested in helping those with disabilities, but they're also intimidated by the rules and regulations and getting sued and all these different things. So he's gonna be the bridge to help people understand it's okay, these are the things you can do, this is guidance from the state, and this is how you can engage people. So that's another untapped pool. And we also do a lot of work with these other underrepresented areas also. All right, next 5. So establish an immigrant and refugee workforce integration initiative. So we're one of the few areas that are taking in immigrants, we're welcoming them. We have a lot of nonprofits, organizations that are doing that. Even during Tompkins Build, I'm part of the interview process, so I actually interviewed someone who came from Ukraine, and real sharp guy, but his English wasn't there, so I could kind of tell, you know, he knew what he was talking about, but he didn't know all the words and everything. So ultimately, he wasn't a fit for the program just because there was a barrier and then a couple other things, outside factors too. But all the time, we're just getting this different kind of talent. So I guess try to think of it from a workforce point too, of like, what can I do in my role to make something more firm and established? Because a lot of these great things go around the area, but you know, is there some like procedure or something like, how are they, do they know to come to Tompkins Workforce and New York Career Center? Do they even know that exists? And how do we make sure they do know that happens? Promote flexible work arrangements and internal mobility. So kind of looking at the talent we have and building them up. So I think that kind of plays in Tompkins County and the investment it needs to do in its employees through professional development funding for HR and departments. And then there's a leadership series going on that's great, that Samantha is running. So she was a OTR request position, and I'm part of that, and 2 of our deputies are too. So that has been a great experience for me and my growth. And it's not just directors or deputies there, like it's everybody at all levels. So I think that in general, organizations need to do that, and so does Tompkins County government, because we do have a lot of people who are looking for that chance to grow and do a lot of great for the county. Strengthen career pathways in hospitality and food service. So I'm gonna be talking with Peggy Coleman at the chambers. So we're gonna brainstorm around some ideas. This is like our identity as an area, our tourism. So what are we doing to take care of that baby? Because if we don't have that, I mean, our economy is gonna collapse in one way or another. So this is not a simple fix. This is not as easy as Tompkins Build and direct to work pathways manufacturing or other things. So that one is definitely, I feel like, a long process, but Peggy's already doing a lot of work on that, and that's a priority of mine too, is to put my time into that. Last 2, invest in transportation solutions for workforce access. So we actually get a lot of people who qualify for trainings, or there is a job opportunity, but they're not able to get there. So how do we solve our transportation challenges. Again, I think TCAT does a great job. I've started to use it myself. But we also do run into issues where it may not touch certain areas, or the time may not align with someone's schedule. And then, actually, I thought my car broke down the other day, but I'm up in Lansing at the Village Solar Apartments. Great project, Mike, by the way. So I think that's a great case study. They have this plot of land, they keep growing. I've been there for 3 years, keeps growing, so people like me can afford housing. Other families and things like that. If that didn't exist, I don't even know where I would live. I'd probably live outside of Tompkins County because it's too expensive to live in the city of Ithaca, or just not worth it, to be honest. Where am I going to park my car? Or I'm going to pay $200 a month to park my car somewhere. I don't know. So just really thinking about those issues. But going back to why I said that, I had to take an Uber from my apartment down to downtown because I thought my car broke, but she's okay. And I had a board meeting, so I had to get down. But that cost me $30 just to go up and down the hill. I mean, that's crazy. And then during the snowstorm, it cost like $90 actually, because I was just fooling around with that. So really, if there's not transportation, it's not realistic for a service worker to take an Uber from Lansing or Dryden or wherever, when $30 is gonna literally disappear right there, and they're paid whatever it may be. So we really need to figure out, how do we grow these areas? Maybe, I don't know, we grow our towns, and then we have connective hubs in Dryden and Lansing, and maybe that's how we can grow our community, because there's not a lot of space to grow in Ithaca, but you know, how do we connect transportation to that? And then I ran out of points, so I put childcare and housing together, because that can be family infrastructure investment, because I thought both were so important that I had to get both in. Again, that child, like I just said, like I can't buy a house. I mean, and then there's tons of people that can't buy a house. So like, what are we gonna do with that? I don't know, that's a societal issue. So I don't expect the legislator to solve that, but I do think we can all put our heads together in our own special areas. I can document the workforce issues I have, and you guys can document what you have, and planning has a gazillion things on this. And how do we advocate that at the state level or any other level? I just think it's important that we think that, you know, just slowly chip away. I honestly don't know how that looks, but it will make a difference in people's lives, even if it's a couple people at this point. But I do think that needs to be looked at, because you can throw all the money you want into whatever, but if there's not housing, not childcare, just people can't go anywhere. So that's the 10-point plan, the free version-ish. We got to put together resources and everything. But that's where my head was at with that. And then for 2026, we want to focus on hospitality and tourism. Like I said, that's a very important area to focus on. Building the tomorrow's workforce today. So we need to make sure our youth stay in the area. So when I say youth, I mean ages 14 to 24, because that's what our funding from the federal government considers youth. So I'm talking about that. So college from high school, like what are we doing to get them to stay here? Are there opportunities for them to stay here? Do they actually know what exists out here? So that's very important. And then the obstacles, opportunity, societal issues, but you know, how do we tackle that? Like what do we do? What can I do on my end? Maybe I can find a grant. I mean, Corsa wants me to find grants. So like, I don't know, maybe there's some sort of grant that can tie workforce and housing or childcare or transportation. So I think if we can all just think about like our parts as departments, you know, like what can we do? Like what grants can we find? Like what wiggle room do we have to at least chip away at this monster of a problem? So that's all I have. And then I also need like a few minutes after this part of session, not too much time. So yes, that's all I have. Thank you.
Chris, thank you. I was half joking, but I knew that the half serious that I was, you were going to take full serious and go all out. So I really appreciate that. And, you know, we often don't get the opportunity to ideate and sort of spitball and have sort of these type of conversations where we get a department head that can kind of come in and share what's really on their mind and really what they're thinking. And I think that this was a good activity and a good example, Chris, on how we can see kind of what you're seeing as a bigger issue within, you know, the segment of our community that you work in, and how there's some intersection between other segments and workforce development. I would briefly open it up to members now for questions or comments. Want to keep an eye on the time as well, but also kind of want to let this marinate a little bit as we continue to sort of develop work plans and conversations around what the committee will be addressing in 26. So I'll stop talking there and see if anybody had, John?
You mentioned Lansing. Lansing has TCAT bus service, right? Do you think that the frequency of service is insufficient?
I think that there could be more routes to it, especially, say if your job ends at 9 o'clock or even 10 o'clock at night, I think it would be a challenge to get back. I don't know all the routes by heart, but I do know there's just not a lot of them, and different routes go different ways. You know, there's one at the mall, and then and some in Lansing. There's one at, because I live in such a big apartment complex space, we have our own stop there. So, but there's also just some people who are in areas where they're not able to access it also. Yeah.
Right, but as far as how I've heard people say, well, if the buses ran every 15 minutes, then I'd take it.
Oh yeah.
To wait an hour.
Yeah.
That's a whole different story. Right?
Yeah, it's definitely spread out, because I think there was a bus that leaves downtown to get back up to Lansing around 5:30, and then there's another one at 7:30 or something. So there is some spread out things like that. And I understand that we're not like Chicago where we can have one every 15 minutes, but I definitely think if there were more routes, more people would take it, just because they have more flexibility in their scheduling, you know, because I think what happens is, like, when you start work at 7:30 or 8 or 8:30, and sometimes those routes just don't align. So I ran into that issue of, like, I had to leave my house at like 5:30 or something if I wanted to get to work by a certain time on that one day. And then if I waited longer, I would not be able to get in at a good time to make this other meeting that I had. So right. I think there's a whole game to think about it, you know, like, when does work start? Like, when do people need to get in?
Iris.
Thank you so much, Chris. Nice to meet you virtually, and I will definitely reach out about meeting in person, because I'm like so excited about everything that you put out here. And I think it's so dense, it's so rich, and I think that we should keep this in mind as a committee when we're thinking about, and then obviously the liaisons who are going to the IDA or part of the Community Housing Development Fund, keep these priorities in mind, front of mind, when you're thinking about how do we allocate the limited resources we have, because there's key themes that are coming up, right? It's like access to transit. So, like, can we think about, are we building or promoting housing in places that have, transit orientation? Is it dense? Is it nearby? Like, that's going to be great. Access to childcare. Can we support childcare in areas where we're also building out, like in your housing complex? Like, wouldn't it be great if there was a daycare center there? That certainly saves parents time on either end of their day to be able to just drop off and pick up, like, right where you live. So I think those are themes that we need to keep in mind. And then, I have questions about the immigrant and refugee targets. It seems like this is a scary time to be an immigrant or a refugee in this country. And I wonder, how that's going to impact our ability to attract and retain people. And obviously you don't have a crystal ball, but other question about immigrants, like people coming from other areas of the country, are you seeing more of that flow too? And is that something we need to lean into, kind of like attracting people to the area for jobs? Because I don't know. I mean, if we're worried about a jobs shortage, that's a question I have. And then around, I know, just going back to your sort of Rising Storm report piece, the female participation is the other piece that you said is going to be crucial. I know, starting in the pandemic, like, a lot of women dropped out of the workforce for childcare and cost reasons and all that. And we have not seen that bounce back, right? And so I think, again, that ties back to childcare, it ties back to wraparound services for these, like the Pathways to Apprenticeship program and these other amazing programs that you're helping run, that we need to make sure that the people that we're targeting, these targeted populations, the immigrants, women, for example, are able to access these jobs. And so, again, we're thinking about our investments. Let's think about the most strategic use of our money, right? Like, the biggest bang for your buck essentially is, like, can we tie the Cornell students providing language support for folks who are, immigrants or refugees looking to be part of the Tompkins Build program, for example. And maybe that will help also get those students to want to stay in the area when they graduate. So anyway, those are just a bunch of thoughts, but I'm really excited about this. And yeah, feel free to respond if you have anything, and I will reach out about a separate meeting.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, thanks for those comments. I'm excited to talk more with you. We'll probably have to block off like half a day at least to kind of go from there. Yeah, that's good.
I've got Adam next. Iris, thanks for the comments.
No, thank you for this great presentation, Chris. It's nice to meet you in person. I know we spoke a little bit prior to me being on the legislature. I'm very interested in point 3. I personally think that's probably the best thing that we can do to help expand our tax base. So I'd love to hear more about the pilot program as it gets more developed, has a name, et cetera. So I'd love to hear more on that.
Yeah, I can definitely keep you more updated on that as it goes. And I think at this point, we're more like brainstorming and then talking with the board around how that could look. But there's a program called Leadership Tompkins where I actually haven't been part of it, but can you describe it, Greg, eloquently?
Gosh, Deb Molinoff, is she still running it? Or
I'm not sure.
She was for a while, I think, Leadership Tompkins. Nick, did you do it? I did. Oh, well, come on up. Yeah, hey, don't let me fumble through this. Come on, Nick. Got a subject matter expert.
Yeah, I participated back in 2019. And yeah, at the time Deb was doing it, I'm not sure who is currently running the program. The cohort at that time, I think, was about 15 to 20 professionals from across the county in various fields and disciplines. And yeah, it was just sort of a variety of ways to learn more about what's happening within the county. It was helpful for me as I just relocated here, and so did several other folks. But I think it was also helpful for people who grew up here to just get exposed to things that they wouldn't otherwise encounter sort of in their work or personal lives. So yeah, and also just learn, leadership skills that are helpful in a variety of settings. So
it's a lot of experiential sort of field trips and site visits, and then working and engaging, my understanding, with local community leaders, business leaders, to sort of share perspective, insight into leadership and their world. Is it?
Yeah, that's a great, I think, encapsulation of what it is. Yes.
Yeah. Great program. They're now accepting applications. I think I saw something.
Yeah, I just saw an email.
That recently came out. So Leadership Tompkins Class 2026 now accepting application. That ends Tuesday, February 24th. Program will participate in honing professional development skills for future leadership roles in Tompkins County, build capacity by immersing themselves in the community by participating in several interactive workshops, facility tours, service outings, volunteer opportunities, training workshop, guest speakers, networking events, set realistic professional goals and personal leadership development skills, preparing for future career, and gain an understanding of key local issues and needs, how those issue areas impact historically and systematically disadvantaged populations, and expand local network and professional contacts. And so you can go to the Chamber website, Tompkins County Chamber of Commerce, and Leadership Tompkins to get more information. And that's my commercial.
Yeah, so that's kind of the idea of that. That's a piece of it. How do we engage college students through a program similar to that? And how do we engage employers to be not just talking with them senior year or junior year, but even by freshman year? Developing that connection at an early age while they're here would be another way to think about that process of engaging them before they leave. And I don't want to cut other people's time. So I will have more points on this actually, because I do have a ton of notes on them at the next meeting. See a hand, Irene.
Oh, yeah.
I hope that's okay, Adam.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Sure.
No.
Oh, sorry.
It's all good.
It's actually along the same lines. I too was very intrigued at that project area. And I wonder, have you or do you plan to speak with students who did stay and found employment, and why, and what enticed them to stay. So just a thought.
Yeah, so that's part of the plan. I would like to do some sort of survey. Obviously, when I say I'm just saying I now, but it's actually just a collective of everyone working together. But it would be good to get a survey of recent grads, like why did you leave or why did you stay, and kind of we could just piece together stuff from that survey also. So yeah, it's helpful to have Adam here too, so who's a local graduate and you know has his mind fresh on a lot of these things. So I think that could be a great way to collaborate and brainstorm of how stuff would look. So because I haven't been to college in a while and I don't know how to.
It's that silver wave, Chris.
Yeah,
it's coming. It hits you hard and fast. Tell me about it.
I'm on the surfboard coming. So,
I'm surfing
so I mean, there's just different ways we can think of, and even if you guys have ideas, please throw your ideas at me. We're just one department. We're more than willing to take your ideas and at least explore it. Nothing's crazy, just whatever, Well, it's for free for me to look into it, so might as well if it can help people.
Awesome. Well, Chris, I appreciate it, and thank you again. For members of the committee, Chris is a repeat guest here, and so he is a dear friend of the committee, and we'll see him often. So we'll have plenty of time to engage in this. Your next topic is?
Oh, yes. Thanks for reminding me about that. So workforce development boards are organized. So there's workforce development boards all across the country. So we get money from the federal government for our workforce programs. And a way to organize it is through workforce boards. And there's boards all across the country. So in New York State, there's 33 workforce development boards. There's the Broome-Tioga Workforce Board. There's the Cortland-Cayuga Workforce Board. And Cortland-Cayuga had approached us, and their director had asked me if she could split her board and add Cortland to us to make it the Tompkins-Cortland Workforce Development Board area. And what ended up happening was I consulted my board, the Tompkins Workforce Board, and then our chair met with Shauna Black about this proposal, and it was determined that did not make much sense for our local area. What would happen would be a strain on our staff, and that the priorities of what we want to do. If you bunched us with Cortland, then we would also have to focus on Cortland issues too, and that would basically hinder whatever I just said in this presentation. So it was ultimately decided that we're good being the Tompkins Workforce Board area still. So it's been like this since 1999. In the past, they were with Broome-Tioga and Cortland-Cayuga, and it just didn't work. Our voices were drowned out. We couldn't focus on what we wanted to do because we're so different from the area. So Shauna Black just wanted me to share this with the committee, and that's all.
Great.
Yep.
Appreciate you keeping the focus close to home.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Chris. All right, next up, Nick Hemhold, Principal Planner, Tourism Program Director.
Thank you, Greg. Yeah, so in your packet, you've got the fourth quarter 2025 tourism program update. We've been doing updates to this committee quarterly that line up with the when we get our room tax report figures. So that's what we lead in with on these reports. Fourth quarter came in at a pretty healthy number, $1,162,612, which was a healthy increase over last year, but was actually slightly below what we had budgeted for this year for the quarter. Even still, generally, no major issues, and we're actually ahead for the year at 2025. Total room tax collection coming in at $4,569,000. So I actually met yesterday with staff in finance and my colleague Kelly Masher. We to reconcile revenues and expenses for room tax from 2025, and we're in the process of developing the year-end closeout process for that. So yeah, that's looking good. We're in good shape. Quick updates on the Strategic Tourism Planning Board, which we have several new members on thanks to interest from the community in serving on that. And the chair and vice chair are continuing this year as Doug Levine and Kelly McCosh. And one of the efforts that that board and volunteers will be working on is updating the strategic tourism plan. So we just formed committees for STPB. So I have yet to reach out to that group to sort of commence work on that. But I'm excited about that prospect really getting going in earnest later this year. And finally, I think most noteworthy, if you or anybody you know or love is planning an event or something that might bring tourists into Tompkins County, please be aware we have grant applications open for the Community Celebrations Grant, Tourism Advancement Grant, and Tompkins Outdoors Grant. We did a informational workshop session last week, Wednesday, January 28th. Had about 15 folks in attendance, virtually all of them new to the tourism program, not past applicants. So excited to get the word out about the programs to them, answer some questions, and help sort of guide them along the way. We already have 8 applications in the received so far, and nearly a full month until the deadline, which is on the 26th of February. So yeah, if you or anybody else you know is interested in that, I'm happy to answer questions and help folks through that process. So that's my update. In the past, this memo contained a list of all the events that we're funding. That's now online, so I encourage you to click that link when you get to your get it up on a digital device. We also include a funding table here, so you can see generally at a glance where room tax funding is going throughout the county. So yeah, happy to answer questions.
I've got Iris and Mike.
Yeah, thanks for the update. Can you tell me a little more about what the grant funds, like who's eligible, sort of quantity, how much is there and how it's going to be distributed?
So we have 3 different programs. I don't have the exact dollar amounts committed to memory, but the Community Celebrations Grant, nonprofit organizations and municipalities are eligible to apply. Funding amounts range from $500 to $2,500. These are for events that are celebrate local history and culture that are free and open to the public. I expect we'll have another round of those grants in the fall. The second category of grants is the Tourism Advancement Grant. The distinction here is that these are events that are expected to generate overnight travel to the county. This can also fund events. Those events do not have to be free. They can be ticketed. It can fund exhibits or installations. It can fund marketing campaigns. There's tours. There's a sort of a wider range of types of activities it can support. Awards range from $2,500 up to $10,000. And this year, I believe we're only going to have one round of funding for the Tourism Advancement Grants. So if you have anything in that realm that's happening in the next 12 plus months, this is the time to get it in. In the final grant category we have open right now is the Tompkins Outdoors Grant. This is intended to expand the capacity of organizations that support outdoor recreation in the county. We sort of define outdoor recreation in 5 big buckets: running and jogging, biking, winter sports, kids in nature, and niche activities. So if you have an organization that's doing something in that realm and you think you could potentially qualify, I'd be happy to talk to you and answer questions about that. Past recipients include Discover Cayuga Lake, the Finger Lakes Land Trust, Friends of Stewart Park, and a few other organizations. So,
and how much are those grants?
Those grants, I believe they are capped at $19,000 or 10% of your organization's budget, whichever is lower. Yeah.
Okay. Just another hat I wear. I sit on the executive board of the Ithaca Children's Garden, so we're always excited.
The Children's Garden is not eligible for that grant because they are currently receiving an arts and culture organization development grant and would get actually less money going through the outdoors program. So, yes.
Good to know. Thank you.
The tourism program website has quite a bit of information that really drills down into that. If you have the digital packet, you can click the blue link in the packet, which Nick is always really good about linking stuff back to. If you go old school with paper, you got to pull out your computer and figure out how to find the URL.
You can also email me at tourism@tompkins tci-da.org, and we'll get you answers as quickly as we can.
Yeah. Mike?
I have two questions. Does the Statler pay into the hotel tax?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. And the second question is, I know the Chamber of Commerce did this a while back. They were able to tell how much economic impact the airport had on the area. I'd have to dig it up or ask the Chamber. I'm going to meet with Peggy in a while, but is there any way to tell how many people who are paying the hotel tax flew into the area?
The best data I have on that comes from the visitor profile study that we did in 2024.
Okay.
I don't have the numbers committed to memory. However, this is also posted to our website, so you could scan through there. To my recollection, it was somewhere between 15 and 20% of our visitors from 2024 who responded they flew in. And actually, I think the vast majority of that were fly-in to Ithaca. I think it was, of that subset of fly-in visitors, 80 or 90% were arriving at the Ithaca airport and not Syracuse or other airports.
Cool. All right, thank you.
All right, Nick, appreciate the time and the update. If there are any pressing committee member reports, we'll take those now. If not, I would like to maybe stand in adjournment, ask the chambers to clear and go into our brief advice of council session if there's no objection. So I'm going to call us adjourned at 11:50. If I could ask members of the committee and legislators to stay. County admin, you're welcome to stay as well if you'd like. But if everybody else could enjoy the rest of your day.